The story I always tell about this is I work with a lot of like remedial math and reading. It's just kind of where my work has been.
It's Precision Teaching Week. It's like Shark Week, but better. Brought to you by Operant Coffee. Thank you so much, Beth. You're a rock star.
And over the last few years, but when a parent or a teacher comes to me and they say they know their letter sounds, or they know their letters, and I say, well, my assessment doesn't show that they know anything about their letters. Yeah. So let's talk about what it looks like to know your letters or to do your letters.
Okay.
What's the input? So it could be seeing a letter and saying the sound of it, or seeing it and saying the name of it. That's all going to be in the pinpoint, particularly in the learning channels at CSA, right? But some kids know their letters by singing the alphabet.
Yeah.
That's like a free say. That's like something you memorize. That's different than knowing your letters. Or there's maybe you can hear a letter sound. I can say ah, and you can say, oh, that's the letter A. Lots of kids can do that, but they can't read.
Yeah, so something as simple as like understanding your letter sounds breaks down into a lot more when you start to look at pinpoint and specifically these learning channels.
Yeah.
Welcome to the Daily BA. My name is RYANO, and today Amy Evans, that you saw there, talking about pinpointing, something that can revolutionize the way that you understand human behavior. So let's roll that intro.
So my favorite thing about PT is that no matter what curriculum you're using, no matter how you do ABA, if you're using your data and using PT, then you can get more out of it.
Yes, extremely efficient, right?
Yeah.
Like we're talking about efficiency levels that most people have not heard of. Entire subjects like reading, math can be truncated into as little as 40 hours. No joke.
Now, what you have to know about it is that sometimes it sucks to see your data. So the other side of that coin is that sometimes it shows you how bad it really is. So it's either going to, if you just let yourself dive into it, then you get that benefit of being able to move faster without having to rely on the next step in your curriculum, without having to rely on a program that you have memorized. You can just figure out something's not right and move forward quickly.
So your role is to help people overcome this, right?
Yeah.
And how do you do that? What are your suggestions?
Well, I think there's a few different approaches. Some people really sometimes it's just get it on the chart and we'll take it from there. It doesn't matter how you define your behavior, it doesn't matter what problem you're trying to solve, just put it on the chart and we'll take it from there. That's one approach. The other approach is to start by redefining behavior.
Yes.
And that's that whole pinpointing process.
What she's talking about is these funky blue charts. My goal is not to sell you on this. You can decide for yourself at this point. But we will jump into what a pinpoint is because it can make wonders on your clinical skills.
So pinpointing is the process of taking a behavior that you want to measure or observe and defining it in a new way. So right now we have operational definitions. That's how most people do things. It's not all that different. But the idea is that you start with that movement cycle. What is the actual movement that the learner is engaging in?
Raising my glass of coffee.
So what is it that you're doing? What's the action verb there?
Raises.
Yep, raises. And what's being raised?
Glass.
Raises glass. That's your movement cycle. That's like the atom. Then you build out from there. So you've got your movement cycle. Now, what's the relevant context that you're going to be measuring or observing or working on that skill in?
Probably the home office, at the clinic if I'm a behavior analyst, or in the car if I'm on my way to work.
So you can have a broad pinpoint like raises glass throughout the day, and then you get one number. Or you can have multiple pinpoints to look at how that same behavior looks different in different contexts. So you can have raises glass in the home office, raises glass at the bar. Yep,
raises glass in the car.
Yep,
right, on the way.
So those can end up being 3 different pinpoints and you're looking at the relationships between all of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, then there's one last piece which is relevant and useful, I think, in a lot of aspects of behavior analysis. But it kind of it always makes sense at first with academic skills, and then you kind of work towards how it makes sense in behavior.
Shoot.
So that's the learning channel. So we got the movement cycle, we added the context, the who, what, where, and it's really the with whom, with what, where, or at what time of day or whatever. So that's your context. And then at the beginning, you add the learning channel. So a learning channel is a system of like input. Some people call it inputs and outputs. There was a really interesting like Facebook exchange about whether that's the right approach. It's not really meant to be like a mentalistic approach to defining behavior. It's totally descriptive. So it's just sort of as the observer, what can you see happening in the environment? So if I'm like, it makes sense with reading because it's like you're seeing something and you're saying it. So it's a see-say.
Cool. So my glass here says Lexus. So reading that would be I see the Lexus and I say the Lexus out loud.
Right. So with raising your glass, I'm assuming that there's some sort of visual input. So I would just use see. Maybe you can raise it without looking, but it's close enough.
Yeah.
So that helps you kind of understand the how you're defining that behavior.
So then all three of these come back together, yes? So
Yeah,
I
so
have
the-
learning channels, pinpoint, and then my context.
Yeah, and if you want to get really technical, you've got the movement cycle plus that context in that order is called your pinpoint. And then when you add that learning channel, that we're starting to call it pinpoint plus.
Nice.
So we talk about pinpoint pluses, but
Yeah.
it's close enough to call them your pinpoints.
Nice.
So then learning channel goes on the front. So it's your input and your output. It would be like see and then do. See, do, raises glass.
Bam.
Yep.
If you think this would be useful to you, the learners that you work with, I've linked down below free resources and ones that you can go buy to learn more about this. I have no affiliations with them. It's just something that I think the world should know about. If you're into it, please like, share, subscribe. It makes a huge difference. It actually matters. And I will see you soon with another episode. It's PT week, like Shark Week, but better. That's your Daily BA.